Hopefully I get this right.
Surfing, you've been my greatest teacher. You had me at the start, in the middle, and now at the end. You have always been my great escape to stillness. But who am I without my board? What do I want to leave behind? What part of my story will my daughter remember?
Trying hard when the night is long. I wish I could believe. Wish I could believe.
Children are born environmentalists. They love nature and all her creatures. If there's one great tool to give our children, it's the love of nature. As parents, how do we keep that connection alive?
Living with the dawn. I wish I could believe we've come so far.
I think we've reached a time in history where we need to start really thinking about our future. We don't put the connection or immersion into the environment as a priority within our school systems. Kids aren't brought out into the environment to be taught about the seasons, the changes that happen from a connection point of view. They might learn about it in books, but they don't really attach to it. We need to put greater emphasis back into connecting people to the places that they live in.
The way that I see country is from a topographical point of view. I always have visions of being above country, floating above it. That's sort of how I paint it. For us growing up, a lot of the knowledge, cultural knowledge, is passed down through storytelling, which was cool because going to school and learning the way we did was pretty miserable for a lot of us. Our connection to country is so powerful. You know, you forget that the trees are our lungs and the animals are our ancestors. And to see it all perish the way it has, and sad times.
On the 8th of November, a monster of a fire tore through this valley, the Nambucca Valley. It tore this place apart. We stayed and defended our house. We had 2 fire crews, bloody professionals, really good job. I'm really appreciative of their help. Without them, we would not be living in our house where we've been for 30 odd years. Thank you.
One of the common views I think we have on nature at the moment is that we need to leave it alone, to give it a chance to regenerate. And certainly there's a lot of merit to that idea, but we have an opportunity to take that one step further, and we can do positive things that help the environment.
Our oceans and reefs are a laboratory of continents, the origin of all things living. Every year for the past decade, I've journeyed out to sea in pursuit of restoring coral and reconnecting with nature. For me, this is my radio silence, an opportunity to digest unnecessary hype of our modern day society.
I've grown up next to the ocean my whole life, and I think for a lot of us on this trip, the ocean has been our second mother. I'm so proud to have the reef as part of my heritage and One of the things that my dad always reflects on is how different the reef was when he was a kid. And if Willow takes 50 years to come back here to visit, then it could be a lot different in 50 years' time.
I wanted the next generation to be able to experience this ecosystem for what it is. We are here for only a glimpse of time, yet our impact is forever. And with that, I believe if these children will harness what it means to protect it for decades to come.
Never before have we experienced fires like the present. They challenge us to reassess our whole approach to living on this continent. We must reconnect with the wild places, stand side by side with our traditional owners, and awaken the environmentalists we were as children, to weave a new narrative for this country, one that our children can align with as they grow. I stand for a world that cares for nature, a world that my daughter deserves, and so does yours.
We are joined by the man that I'm talking about and I've been promoting all morning and all day yesterday. Thank you so much for joining us, my man Case, Glen Casey in the house.
G'day Troy, how are you mate? Good morning, good morning. Thanks for having me buddy.
Oh mate, I tell people that I've been telling people, you know, this person's got the ocean in his eyes. I can't stop repeating that. Mate, you're looking fresh this morning. You got, you've wiped the beard, the surf wax out of your beard, which is good.
I did. Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, just delved into a small little yoga practice, a bit of a shower, and tickety boo, here I am, mate. You know, talking to you.
Who says tickety boo?
That's a really old one. I don't know where that one came from.
Oh, mate, no. Hey, we're here to talk about your old ways and the way you've developed into yourself. And I mean, that movie for one. What is that? What do you feel when you see that movie? How did it come about? What is it? How does it align with who you are? Why did you get involved?
Initially we made that movie for Greening Australia for a fundraiser charity for the fires back in February, when half the country was on in flames, and so we put that together in 3 weeks. But I think I wanted to point out the fact that we're very in the moment. We're very much about what's happening now, and when you have children, I guess you start to think long term, and you think about their future. And so I really wanted that to be a focus around the kids of tomorrow, and what we've got to look after for them, not just us. But essentially, we raised $300,000 giving away artwork, selling artwork, and on this fundraiser, and that movie was that was part of the night. Anyway, we got that shown on the night, which was great. And we just got, which is a little plug, we just got accepted into the Byron Film Festival last night after I spoke.
Oh, congrats, mate!
I got some emails, and the film festival just said, we want to show it. So that was good
show
news
that
for
one
us.
that you. Sorry, mate. Show that video, the movie that we just played.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Which was amazing. We didn't. Some of those things you just do from the heart, and you're not expecting any kind of great results. But we're pretty thrilled. An email came through last night, saying that they wanted to show it, and stoked. So
congrats, mate. When did you? Did you always have a connection to obeying what your heart thinks and feels? Because sometimes we can be a little bit diverted off doing what our heart says, and we do what the common layout is. When you're a young fella, you know, you weren't brought up around the beach initially, but you got dragged down there by a family, so you weren't naturally a water baby, but you met your big love, the ocean.
Yeah.
Was that
That's
a
right.
huge I guess initiator or activator to bring you closer to country?
Absolutely, yeah. I think in a way we follow our pleasures and our desires, and surfing was such an amazing pleasure. I was very fortunate to have a couple of great mentors, you know, a couple of fellas who, one in Wayne Lynch, who was very much deep in Indigenous practices, and he played the didge, and we used to cruise around the Otways, you know, looking at middens, and then we had a lot of interaction in that world, and that was one side of me which was very grounded in, which helped, you know, because you're always wondering what the natural world's doing, checking surf and wondering when the next surf is coming. The other part of me, the other mentor I had was a yogi, and he at the same time initiated me into a lot of great yogic practices, and so I sort of found this balance, you know, not so much on the information and the intellectual sort of stuff that was going on in the world. It was more the wisdom that was coming through me, and so I ended up tapping into, I guess, what I felt was devotional to the world. You know, I wanted to, you know, live in the forest. I bought land down there. I looked after some of the logging coops that were trying to, you know, cut down a lot of trees, because I felt that, you know, the trees were doing a job. The natural world does everything in the natural world has a job to do, and we were interfering with that. And but having those two great teachers, they really kind of guided me into what I would call a complete immersion into the natural world. You know,
you
helped
speak
me a lot.
Yeah, mate. You speak a little bit about just Indigenous people there. Did you is it Maurice Cole or Maurice Cole?
Yeah.
Did you meet
Maurice,
him? And
yes, I knew Maurice. I grew up. Maurice made a lot of my surfboards, and he was a great influence, and he's a great man, and he's done a lot to protect the local region down in Torquay and around Bells, and and he was from Warrnambool, and from the Framlingham kind of end of the coast. You know, where we was funny because we both knew a fella called Normie Cooper, who was an amazing Indigenous surfer that surfed down along the Great Ocean Road, and an amazing guy, and we got to spend a lot of time with Normie. Sadly, he passed, but you know, just being in those places, and the way that the energy kind of, you know, it changes your mind. So your mind gets out of the way. It stills your mind, and so you start to hear other information inside your heart, and so those things sort of guided me in the end, you know.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm just placing that in my world, and how I mean, we spoke to Kyle Vanderkop yesterday about how important it was to put on the brakes on his life, so he can deal with what was really festering and kind of essentially bothering all his life, which was his mental health. It's interesting in another way. Surfing is that moment for a lot of surfers to put those brakes on what is getting in the way, and having a deep look at yourself.
Yeah, and it deep pressures your life, because there's so many pressures that the world puts on you, and you end up believing them, and you're making them more significant than who you are as a soul, and you're this little lighthouse satellite, and you're unique, and you've been, you know, kind of thrown into this life, and so you've kind of got to do it your own way. You can't look at the outside world and be like your neighbour, or, you know, some guy that you see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You've just got to live it, what's inside of you, and stop pressuring yourself, because pressure is, you know, the main one of the great I guess it's one of the great killers on the planet with suicide and everything, because we're under so much pressure to be something we're not. You've just got to be who you are and live that out and follow those dreams and follow those pleasures, and be careful of the pleasures that aren't good pleasures. Pick the good, pick the desires that are working for you, and be careful of indulging in things that aren't right for you. But you'll work it out, and you've got to live it, and you've got to feel it, and then it'll start to transform you, because we need transformers right now on the planet. There's too many people. We've got to transform back to the indigenous culture that we were, and the wisdom that is in the country and in the land and the people of the land. And once we get that balance, we'll be a much better planet. That's how I see it.
Before I go over and flick over to how you got involved in Patagonia, I want to know a little difference between what happens in surfers' heads where they want, sure, you want big waves, but then there's big waves. Big waves, like you can actually call
lunatic waves.
Which may describe a little bit about your ticker. What happened to you? What's wrong with the 5 foot swell, 6 foot swell? Why are you going for something crazy?
Yeah. Well, I think in the back streaks of acid and my front brakes were a bit tight, so I went over the handlebars and got a big hit on the tarmac. So something went a bit loose, but
it's another world, isn't it? That big wave surfing.
Sorry?
That big wave surfing is another level of intensity and thrill. Yeah,
it's pretty hard to describe, sitting out, in the middle of the ocean, looking at a, 15, 20-foot wave roll down the reef coming towards you, and then you say to yourself, well, hang on a minute, I'm out here to ride this thing, So, but it's a gradual build-up and a slowly, you're at Torquay Point when it's 4 or 5 foot as a 13-year-old, and then you slowly work your way up. And I guess I wouldn't call myself, a super crazy, chest-beating kind of gorilla out there in the big waves, but I saw it as a manhood, as a overcoming my fears, working with my mind, and learning to sort of stay still in what I call when an avalanche rolls over you and you're under the water, thinking, okay, my lungs need air right now, and I've got to come up. But the big goddess of the ocean, she's not going to let you up. She's holding you down there. So all those things teach you a lot about who you are and what you're made of. But yeah, in the end, I rode some beautiful, amazing surf, big waves, and still wonder how I did it now. At the in the twilight zone. But it was a gradual build to that sort of strength. And
you made a lot of friends along the way, and you essentially called Torquay and that surf coast home for a big part of your kind of 20s, 30s. Hitting the waves every day. You landed a gig with, is it Rip Curl? You're involved in the retail game. You moved into your own agency, wanting to help others build brand, because you kind of had a knack of I guess, sending an authentic message about a brand into people's hearts so that they would purchase or develop a relationship with the brand. You then discovered Patagonia. What resonated with you with Patagonia as opposed to the so many other brands that you would have been aware of, especially in surf, but in your agency you met so many people. What struck you to be involved with Patagonia, and what was missing in the Australian landscape of that Patagonia was going to fill?
Well, yeah, I guess because I was born sort of into the surf industry and went through, the early 80s right through, and I just saw the relationship deteriorate in the way in which these surf brands were treating people, and I could almost see the writing on the wall. And I, funnily enough, the brand Patagonia was approaching a friend of mine who I was surfing with, Wayne Lynch, and so I started looking at that brand. And at the time, we were fighting a logging coup in the Otways, and I started researching what Patagonia did, and they gave 1% back to the planet, called it an Earth tax. And I looked at this guy, Yvon Chouinard, and just went, wow, this guy's unbelievable. He's actually had the ability to contain the soul of a brand in a really authentic way. And so I just loved everything that he did. And I said, well, how do I get amongst this? And got an email via Wayne Lynch, and got speaking to someone over there. And long story short, they went, yep, you're our guy. And we kicked it off in 2009, did our first shop in Torquay. And then, you know, the brand is still rolling along, doing really well now. I don't work for them anymore, but I sit on the periphery and admire everyone in there and what they're doing, and they fight for the environment. They'll go. They just did this massive campaign about the oil rig in the Great Barrier, the Australian Bight, and they kind of got a great result out of that. And there's not many brands that are willing to put that kind of, you know, that kind of guts and effort and money on the line, and they do. And I love them. I think they're a fantastic company.
And you're saying that current day status, a lot of brands aren't about that. Are they?
I think.
Is it still a bit of a block? Like we've all got blind spots to what we're being told is good.
I think there's a real movement now. I think like I got told by a couple of my friends who were working in other large companies that every a lot of the designers and a lot of the people now, they had the Patagonia catalogs open on their desk, but they started to build the importance of having an environmental department, and so they decided that, you know, giving back and having meaning in the brand, like Tom's shoes, you know, they give a pair of shoes away for every purchase. And so a lot of these brands started to emerge out of what Patagonia had set out to do, and that is to, you know, have a brand that goes out there, but it also educates, and it also gives away money to protect and preserve the natural world. And I think, you know, that message, you know, has really resonated, and that's what's the blueprint for what's kind of coming. I think if you're going to have some sort of sustainable long-term brand, you need those kind of things inside it, and that's sort of what I'm doing now, in a sense, with my consulting and all that, is just to make sure your roots are really deep in the relationship with the planet, with the people, and with your purpose. So if you haven't got a purpose and you're not telling people we're doing some good things, doesn't matter what it is. You might be cleaning up the local creek, or you might be recycling, you know, your local, you know, working on things with your council or your local MP or whatever it is. At least you're doing something that people can resonate with and get a part of and feel good about, you know. So
I guess the question then, I think a lot of people who haven't gone through your journey to try and test out all these brands that might work and might not work. It's a great resume and taught you a lot. If you could eyeball someone in the eye who isn't getting it right, whatever brand they've got, and what would be the first couple of questions that you would want to get answered, for them to answer themselves in how to make their brand those things that you really call pillars in a brand?
Yeah, I think that, you know, you could sort of look at a lot of the big guys and they've gone too far because they're in the public realm, and you know, every cent is looked upon as, you know, something to go back to a shareholder, and so it dumbs everything down. And so, but I advise a lot of startup brands that are trying to kind of, you know, get into the, you know, even if it's just on a small scale, get into the Australian marketplace, not such a global, that it comes into the relationship of a person and what you're saying to that person. So if you can actually, you know, tell, say, some ethical bamboo, cup, some guys. But what are you doing with the profits, and how are you actually telling your marketplace? What's the difference between if someone's going to come in and purchase your bamboo cup, and it is sustainable and the wood is good and all that, but what are you actually doing to make that person feel that he has meaning in his purchase, and how good does he feel in the end? Because in the end, most people want their money to be devotional. They want to devote their money into places that they're going to get a good feeling back. So
I'm throwing you around all over
sense.
mate. It's beautiful. I'm someone that's tried a few brands. I've got these bamboo sunnies, which I'm going to talk to you off air about.
Yeah, see, I'm picking up on it.
It's the only reason why I've been talking to you lately, Casey. Is I'm bringing you into my web. No, that's not. It's totally not.
I can help you, brother. I can help you.
Mate, I want to. But tell me about Tootie Frankenberg.
Well, Tootie Frankenberg.
Sorry, but I hope you're okay.
Yeah. She was about my fourth, girlfriend, which, when you're 15, 16. But I finally got a job in Torquay in the Rip Curl shop, and I thought I was eating a bit, and then all of a sudden here comes Tootie, who was an American import, and she looked like some catwalk model, way above, you say batting above your average. Well, that was me. And anyway, I somehow got to take her out, and then had this amazing, little 2 or 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, when your mate creeps around and goes, well, I think Tootie's, shot off with another fella over there, and you're like, what? Like, my whole world crumbled. I went into this deep, dark depression, and I was rolling around at 3 a.m, screaming out for Tootie. But I think in that story, in the Drifter, in the magazine there, I did use surfing as my deep pressure, basically. But yeah, I was 18. The world was this gorgeous, wonderful place. I thought everything was going to go right, and then Tootie broke my heart, mate. That was the greatest heartbreak of all.
The reason I bring it up, it is in a great whoever wrote. So you got some great writings of you lately, or over the I've been discovering, and it's driftersurf.com, and if you look up Glen Casey Exaltations, I love it how you talk about this, because it's not blabbing on. You're talking about these moments in the 80s that were just classic moments. But you said, and I really, but it broke me into pieces in a way that I still haven't ever recovered from. I wonder, now that resonated with me, and my lovely partner is in my life, and I love her to bits. But there's always, I think, is there always one that you just, like, you haven't put to shelf, or the pain just lingers? Or what do you mean by you still haven't recovered from?
Well,
counsel me,
counselor. Like shrapnel. It's like, when you get hit by a grenade and you've got shrapnel in parts of your body. Or, Eckhart Tolle talks about, we all carry this pain body, and I think there's little fragments of Tootie sitting around my pain body, and so when I enter and maybe, every relationship I have to tick off, this list of trust that, but no, it's
don't you do me like Tootie did.
Through that, hopefully.
Don't you Tootie me? Don't you Tootie me? I haven't got any more room for another Tootie. Hey, you've got something coming up, which is pretty cool. Congratulations again for getting that movie in the Byron Festival, and you're about to shoot another film.
Yes.
Can you discuss anything about that, or is it a bit off the grid? And
yeah, I've been doing some consulting for the Pryor Foundation, and we've signed off with a company called Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef. Free Surfer Dave Rastovich is now an ambassador, and Pryor Foundation own Pure Scott Whiskey, and so they again give 1% away to the planet, and they've given a whole heap of money to citizens of the Great Barrier Reef. And if you look up those guys, they've developed an app that you can actually map the health of the reef. So if you're up there diving or you're in the area, you can take a photo of it, upload it on the app, and say, hey, we were here, and we've noticed that this area's bleached, or this area's in trouble. So
what's that link?
So
Sorry,
we're
Case.
doing a movie. Sorry.
What's that link, mate? While I've got you, if I look them up,
the actual it's called the Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef, and
Cool.
it's called the Reef Radicals. Is the little initiative.
mate, I just want to put a link up to everyone.
There's an app that you can, and they're just launching it. We're helping them launch it, and but the Pryor Foundation, which is a great company, Dave Pryor and his family put together again a philanthropic arm to the Pure Scott Whisky Company, and so they put out that movie that I did earlier, Greening Australia, was for the Pryor Foundation, and then this new one will be free diving off the reef and making sure that a lot of the things around there, which is a lot of the waterways and a lot of the water health that comes out of the some of the mining industries and all that up there in Gladstone and a lot of those areas, there's a lot of water health and other things that are causing this bleaching, and I don't know whether that's the primary reason, but climate change and increase in temperatures of water and blah blah blah. But generally, that's the next project with Dave Rastovich and a host of people on a couple of big yachts, swimming and diving, and making sure that we're again educating and bringing awareness to the wonderful Great Barrier Reef, which most of the country still hasn't got up and seen. And I'd advise everyone listening, if you get a chance in your life, go up and dive that place, because it'll blow your mind. I've been up a few times, and that earlier movie we went up to the Southern Shoals, Capricorn Keys, and dove around there, and it just blows your mind. There's a whole nother ecosystem world down there, and just get a snorkel on and kick around, and you'll just go, wow, what did you put in my coffee today, Glenn?
Yeah, right. I haven't been up there. I know some people that have, and they always come back and are absolutely gobsmacked. Are we in danger of losing the Great Barrier Reef? I know you're not David Attenborough, but you do a lot for you're more tuned than me. You're in more tune than me. I feel like after listening to you and knowing what you do, I don't do enough for the Earth.
Yeah.
What can we do? Is that Great Barrier? What should we stop doing?
Yeah.
What? Fiddle around with that.
I think, like a lot of the things that I do is I keep an eye on my local area, and I keep an eye on, the local MPs, and you only have to look at Morris Cole and what he stepped back into council. He's a surfer and an elder and a wise old, owl. And he's gone, no, I don't like what's happening in the local council, and they're making bad decisions. So I'm stepping in, and so he's kind of a radical form of what each individual could do. That if someone is, not treating something properly in your area, then step up, activate what I call the activism button, go in and make yourself heard, because. It's really important now, because we are losing the wisdom of the land, and the country is suffering. And this incredible, back to your question, the reef is it's for some unknown reason is depleting, bleaching, deteriorating. I don't know the exact figures, but I think it's up to 40% of it is bleached, and so we need to just jump on the forefront. And
what do you mean bleached? Sorry, Case. What do you mean bleached?
It's complete. It whitens. It completely whitens and kills the coral, and and so what happens is all the fish move out, and all the little, because they all feed off, all the little fish and all the animals and all that. They also, so what it does, it's like going in and clear felling a forest and saying, all right, well, this is bleached, or this, these trees are, and we're all very aware of conservation and smart practices, and we all got to build houses and skateboard decks or whatever it is, and we all know we need wood, but we're a very smart civilization now, and there's other ways that you can do it and make it more sustainable. But so that is probably the thing that I would do. Be careful of what you wash your armpits in. Be aware of what you're putting on your body. There's a lot of chemicals out there. Read and be knowledgeable, because you can't sit back now and just be ignorant, because there's a big movement on the planet. And the more unconscious you are, the more you'll pull into fear, and you'll kind of get lost in that old school kind of way. I think if we've got this wonderful thing called the internet, we can educate ourselves to be better environmentalists, or better people, And,
I've always. I can only speak for myself, because that's the only person I represent right now.
Yeah, that's it.
But I've been hopeless at it, and I've always kind of treated it like, greeny thumb, or I'll get away, like it's too hard. But there's in other areas of my life, I'm not like that. I'm quite like, I try and remain open, and you've definitely, when I see your feed and what you do, and see how deliberate, and you've spent most of your life doing this, and it really, you wrestle with it, I think others should wrestle with it a lot more too. Which is great.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting from this chat. Case, I appreciate you, mate. You're going for a couple of surfs today. What's ahead, mate?
I'm straight out the door, mate. Got the wax in the bag and the boards in the car. Already did that, mate.
Have you checked the surf report, mate? How's it looking out there? You're up in Byron Bay.
Yeah, it's a good little east swell. I actually overdid my budget yesterday. I had 2 surfs, so I was had a bit too much salt water there for a while this morning. So I'm glad you allowed me to wake up. But it still doesn't curb the addiction to go straight back out and put more salt water in there. So, but mate, thank you for your amazing time, and thank you for putting on this great show, mate.
You're a ledge, mate. I appreciate you. I've for all the listeners, I have put up a link for the Reef Radicals and also driftersurf.com, a little yarn, a couple of yarns around Case, otherwise known by his birth name as Glen Casey. But if you type in Glen Casey, I use Patagonia, but it's not him anymore, but it's definitely one of his big chapters of his life. You will get a feed of some other things, probably a little bit about Patagonia, but also Glen Casey and the brilliant work you do for country from an Indigenous man. Thanks, brother.
No worries, brother. Thank you.
No worries, mate. We're gonna keep moving on with the show. And I thought, do you know Donovan Frankenreiter?
I have met him briefly. I don't really know him, but he's a good friend of mine. He's one of his close good mates. Actually, he's down in Torquay. Brad Gerlach, an American, almost world champion, second in the world, but he's very good friends. He plays a bit of music occasionally with Donovan. But yeah, mate, I'd love to hear that song. That would be.
I'm going to play awesome. Donovan Big Wave for you, mate, because you know what I mean. You know the tie-in. You like the tie-in. Yeah,
I do.
You love it.
You're a clever man. Thank you, buddy.
If you just